Hello, this is a Christmas Eve special, a story that should be read and known by everyone, and it is by J K Rowling, The Christmas Pig. So I promised you this, and I'm about to give you 3 chapters, and that is so that you can kind of understand the setup of the story and understand why there's drama in it and everything that is needed to begin. Okay? So, the illustrations are by Jim Field. Part 1, Der Pig. Chapter 1, Der Pig. Der Pig was a small toy pig made of the same material as a soft towel. He had little plastic beans in his tummy, which made him fun to throw. His squishy trotters were exactly the right size to wipe away a tear. When his owner Jack was very young, he fell asleep every night sucking Der Pig's ear. Der Pig got his name because when Jack started to talk, he said Der Pig instead of the pig. When new, Der Pig had been a salmony pink with shiny black plastic eyes pig. But Jack couldn't remember Der Pig looking like that. Der Pig had surely always been as he was now, grayish and faded, with one ear stiff from all the sucking. Der Pig's eyes fell out, leaving tiny holes in his face for a while. But then Jack's mom, who was a nurse, sewed little buttons in place of the missing plastic beads. When Jack came home from nursery that afternoon, Der Pig was lying on the kitchen table, wrapped up in a woolen scarf, waiting for Jack to take off the little bandage covering his eyes. Mom had even made Der Pig a set of medical notes. D.P. Jones. Operation to attach buttons. Surgeon, Mum. After his eye operation, everyone started calling Der Pig D.P. for short. From the time he was 2 years old, Jack would never go to bed without D.P., which often caused problems because when bedtime came, D.P. was usually nowhere to be found. Sometimes it took Mum and Dad a long time to find D.P., who turned up in all kinds of places, hiding inside of one of Dad's shoes, or scrunched up in a flower pot. "Why'd you keep hiding him, Jack?" Mum asked every time she found D.P. curled up in a kitchen drawer or hidden beneath the sofa cushion. The answer was private, between Jack and D.P. Jack knew D.P. liked cozy spaces where he could snuggle up and sleep. D.P. liked doing exactly the same things Jack did, crawling under bushes, into hidey holes, and being thrown up in the air. Jack by his dad, and D.P. by Jack. D.P. didn't mind getting dirty or being dropped accidentally into a puddle, as long as he and Jack were having fun together. Once, when Jack was 3, he put D.P. in the recycling bin. When he had heard Mum say the bin was for recycling, Jack thought it had something to do with bike rides, so he waited for Mum to leave the kitchen, then dropped D.P. in there, imagining he'd have a little spin around when the lid was on. Mum laughed when Jack explained why he was peeking in the bin, to try to catch the things moving. She explained that recycling meant something very different to going for a bike ride. All the things in the bin were going to be taken away and turned into other things, so they would have a whole new life. Jack definitely didn't want D.P. to go away and be changed into something else, so he never put D.P. in the recycling bin again. All his adventures gave D.P. an interesting smell, which Jack liked very much. It was a mixture of the places DP had gone on his adventures, along with the warm, dark cave under Jack's blankets, and just a trace of Mum's perfume, because she always hugged and kissed DP too when she came to say goodnight to Jack. Every now and then, Mum would decide that DP had gotten a bit too smelly and needed a good clean. The first time DP ever went in the washing machine, Jack had lain on the kitchen floor and screamed with rage and fear. Mom had tried to show Jack how much DP was enjoying swirling around in the washing machine, but it wasn't until DP was back in the cave under Jack's blankets that night, soft and dry, and smelling of washing powder, that Jack really forgave Mum. He soon got used to DP going into the washing machine, but he always looked forward to DP returning to his natural smell. The very worst that ever happened to DP was when Jack was 4 and lost him at the beach. Dad had already packed up the towels, and Mum was helping Jack back into his sweatshirt when Jack suddenly remembered burying DP somewhere, though he couldn't remember quite where. They searched until the sun was setting and the beach was almost empty, and Dad got really cross. And Jack wailed and sobbed, but Mum kept telling him not to give up hope and digging all around with her hands. Then, just as Dad was saying they'd have to leave without DP, Jack dug his bare foot into the sand and his toes hit something squashy. Jack pulled DP out, sobbing with happiness, and Dad said that DP was never to come to the beach again, which Jack thought was very unfair because DP loves sand, which was why Jack had buried him in the first place. Chapter 2. Mum and Dad. Shortly before Jack started school, a letter arrived telling all the parents that the children should bring their favorite cuddly toy with them on their first day. Everybody in Jack's class brought a teddy, but Jack, of course, brought DP. Each child took his or her turn to walk up to the front of the class and explain what their cuddly toy's name was and why they liked it. When it was Jack's turn, he explained why DP was called DP, and about the operation on his eyes, and about the day he got buried in the beach and was nearly lost forever. The stories of DP and his adventures made the class laugh, and when Jack finished talking, they all clapped. DP was easily the funniest and most interesting toy, even though he was one of the shabbiest. At playtime, Jack and a boy called Freddie played catch with DP. Just before the end of break, Jack dropped DP in a puddle. That night, DP had to go into the washing machine again. If Jack ever had a bad day at school, if he got a low mark, or had an argument with Freddie, or if someone made fun of Jack's wonky clay pot, DP was waiting at home to wipe away a tear with his trotters. Whatever happened to Jack, DP was there, understanding and forgiving, and carrying with him that comforting smell of home which always came back no matter how often Mum washed it off. One night, soon after he'd started school, a noise woke Jack up. He felt for DP and drew him close in the dark. Somebody was shouting. The voice was a bit like Dad's. Then there was a crash, and a lady screamed. It sounded like Mum, but not as Jack had ever heard her. Jack was scared. He listened for a few more moments, pressing DP against his mouth and nose, and he knew DP was scared too. Jack thought Mom and Dad might be fighting a burglar together. He knew that number that you had to call for police, so he got out of bed in the dark and he crept out onto the landing. Still holding DP, he tiptoed downstairs. Dad was still yelling. and Mom was still screaming. Jack couldn't hear the burglar's voice. Then the sitting room door banged open, and Dad strode into the hall. He wasn't wearing his pajamas, but jeans and a sweatshirt. Dad didn't notice Jack on the stairs. He opened the front door, walked out, and slammed it behind him. Jack heard the noise of the car engine in the drive. Dad drove away. Jack crept into the sitting room. The lamp was on the floor, and Mum was sitting on the sofa with her face in her hands, crying. When she heard Jack's footsteps, she looked up startled and then cried harder than ever. Jack thought she'd explain everything and make it all better. But when he ran to her, she only hugged him very close, the way he held DP when he was hurt or sad. Chapter 3. Changes. Dad didn't live with them any more after that. Mom and Dad explained to Jack separately that they didn't want to be married anymore. Jack told him he understood. He said that other people at school had mums and dads who didn't live together. He could tell that they needed him to be all right about it all. So he pretended that he was. But some nights after Mom had kissed him and closed the door, Jack cried into DP's limp body. DP knew and understood everything without being told. He knew about the hard lump in Jack's chest. His trotters wiped away Jack's tears, and Jack didn't have to pretend in the dark with DP. Soon after Jack's 6th birthday, Dad took Jack out for a burger and gave him a big box of Legos and explained that he had gotten a job abroad. "I can talk to you all the time, though, Jack," said Dad. "You can fly on an airplane to visit me. It'll be fun, won't it?" Jack didn't think it sounded nearly as much fun as having a dad around to play with, but he didn't say that. Jack was getting used to not saying things. Next, Mom told him it might be a good idea if they moved to be closer to Gran and Grandpa, who could take care of Jack when she needed to work late. She had a new job at a big hospital, and Grandpa had found them a lovely house with a garden just 2 streets away from Gran and Grandpa's house. Gran and Grandpa owned a very naughty dog called Toby. Jack found Toby the dog funny. "But will I have to leave school?" asked Jack, thinking of his best friend Freddie. "Yes," said Mom, "but there's a school very near our new house. I know you'll love it." "I don't think I will," said Jack. He didn't want to move, and he didn't want a new school. Mom didn't seem to understand. Jack didn't want any more changes. He wanted to stay with his school friends and in the old house where he and DP had had so many adventures. Gran and Grandpa talked to Jack on the phone. They told him how much they were looking forward to him and Mom coming to live near them, and what fun they'd have playing with Toby the dog in the park. So Jack said it was all right, but he didn't really mean it. The only person who seemed to understand was DP. Jack knew DP would miss all their favorite hiding places too. A few weeks after Mom had told Jack about the new house, Jack said goodbye to his teacher and Freddie. The next day the removal men came and took away everything that made the old house look like home, and Mom drove Jack and DP 100 miles in their car. Jack had to admit the journey was fun. DP sat on Jack's lap and Mom and Jack played I Spy and stopped for pizza and ice cream halfway. Mom let Jack buy 2 gobstoppers out of the gumball machine, one for him and one for DP, although as Jack explained to Mom back in the car, he'd have to eat DP's for him. He hadn't expected to, but Jack liked the new house. His bedroom was next to Mum's, and there was a tall tree outside his window. Gran and Grandpa arrived 5 minutes after they did, with bags of food to fill up the fridge. The first thing Toby the dog did was try to snatch DP out of Jack's hand. "No, Toby, you know DP's mine," said Jack. He shoved DP down the front of his sweatshirt to keep him safe, but with his head sticking out so DP could see what was going on. The removal men lifted all their familiar furniture into the house. Mom and Gran put away all the kitchen things, while Jack, Grandpa, Toby the dog, and DP explored the garden. They had lots of interesting hiding places and excellent high perches for DP, but Jack kept him close because he didn't trust Toby the dog not to try and snatch him again. That night, Jack held DP in bed, breathing in his familiar comforting smell, and they silently agreed that moving day hadn't nearly been as bad as Jack had expected. There were no curtains on Jack's window yet, and DP and Jack watched the leaves fluttering against the darkening sky outside before they fell asleep. Now the next chapter brings Holly into the story. Holly is to become the big reader that is matched up with Jack, and he becomes rather popular because of her, and he owes her a lot. But then the story turns when Holly somehow becomes entwined into Jack's family, and there's a lot of jealousy and anger about certain things, and DP becomes lost because of it. So this story becomes a Christmas story because on Christmas Eve, DP is lost and there is a replacement pig, and that replacement pig becomes able to take Jack onto an adventure to find the original DP. And that is what's magical. And that has so many allegories that are so important and so touching, and it brought tears to my eyes at times, and I had so much joy at other times. And that is what made this book a fantastic Christmas story, because it talked about the magic of loving what you have in gratitude and a new way to just perceive things and people in your life. That is just a wonderful Christmas message. So I do hope that you read it. The pictures that are in are about every 5 chapters, and they're fantastic. I think the story is riveting enough for a young person, but then it has a deeper meaning that older, maybe middle to upper, young high school even would appreciate. So do finish the story and have a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing pajamas because the entire story, Jack in his adventure was stuck in his pajamas. Okay, I just realized I never explained. All right, take care now.